Sarah was holding her daughter Lily's favorite toy bunny when the phone call came. It was a regular Tuesday morning, and Sarah was sipping coffee by the window, watching the trees sway in the wind. Lily was supposed to be with her nanny, playing in the backyard. The call was from the local hospital. The nurse on the other end sounded calm, but her words hit Sarah like a storm. There had been an accident, a terrible one. Lily had run into the street after her ball and was struck by a car. She had been taken to the emergency room, but her injuries were too severe. Sarah dropped the cup from her hands. It shattered on the floor, just like her heart. The room started spinning. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her little girl, her sunshine, was gone. The next few days felt like a blur. Friends and family visited her home, offering their condolences, bringing food she couldn't eat and words she couldn't really hear. Every night, Sarah sat in Lily's room, holding her daughter's blanket, breathing in the soft scent of baby shampoo. She cried until her eyes ached. There was no explanation that could ease the pain. The police said it was just a tragic accident. The nanny said she only turned away for a second. But Sarah couldn't stop thinking. Lily was always careful. She had been taught not to run into the street. Something didn't feel right. But Sarah was too broken to investigate. Her mind kept playing memories on repeat. Lily's laughter, her first steps, her bedtime stories. Now, all that remained were photos on the wall and a little pink dress hanging behind the door. When it was time for the funeral, Sarah felt like she was walking through someone else's nightmare. She stood beside the small white casket covered in flowers, her hands trembling. Lily's favorite songs played softly in the background, making it even harder to keep from falling apart. People came, one by one, to give her hugs and kind words. But Sarah barely noticed anyone's face. Her thoughts were stuck on the last moment she saw Lily alive. Her daughter had waved goodbye from the porch, her bunny in hand, smiling as always. That smile haunted Sarah now. It didn't feel like goodbye. As Sarah stood frozen near the casket, she suddenly felt a shift in the air around her. She looked up and saw a face she hadn't seen in years. It was Daniel, her ex-husband, Lily's father. He had been gone from their lives since Lily was a baby. He hadn't called. He hadn't written. He never showed interest in being a dad. So why was he here now? Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't told him about Lily's death. She hadn't known where to find him. Yet here he was, standing across from her, dressed in black, smiling slightly. Not a soft, grieving smile. It was something else, almost smug. Sarah blinked, unsure she was just imagining it. She took a closer look. His eyes were locked on her, almost like he was watching her reaction. The smile didn't leave his face. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Why would he show up at the funeral uninvited? And why did he look like he was hiding something? Sarah felt a mix of anger and fear rise inside her. Her mind began racing with questions she hadn't asked before. Was this really just an accident? Or was there more going on than she realized? Sarah couldn't take her eyes off Daniel. His presence didn't feel like that of a grieving father. Instead of pain, his face showed something strange, something cold. As people around her wiped tears and shared memories of Lily, Daniel stood in silence, his posture stiff, his hands neatly folded in front of him. Sarah's heart pounded. They had not spoken in over 4 years, ever since their messy divorce. He had left without a fight, not even asking for visitation rights. He had told her he didn't want to be a father. So why was he here now, looking like he had a secret? After the service, people gathered outside the small church. Sarah stepped away from the crowd and tried to breathe. Her chest felt tight, her thoughts foggy. She was about to sit down on a bench when she noticed Daniel approaching. She didn't want to speak to him, not today, not while her soul was aching. But it was too late. He stood in front of her, hands in his pockets, wearing that same unsettling smile. "I heard what happened," he said softly. "It's a tragedy." Sarah looked at him, her eyes searching for sincerity. But his words sounded rehearsed, like he was acting. "How did you even find out?" she asked, her voice shaky. "You haven't called in years. You weren't in touch with anyone." Daniel looked away briefly, then shrugged. Someone told me. Doesn't matter who. Sarah's suspicion grew. She knew all of Lily's life had been private. Her friends, her family, her nanny. None of them even mentioned Daniel anymore. He was a ghost from the past, a man erased from Lily's story. She never asked about him, and Sarah never brought him up. She had tried to protect her daughter from the pain of abandonment, but now the past had come crawling back at the worst possible time. You weren't there for her, Sarah said, anger slipping into her voice. Not when she was born, not when she learned to walk, not when she needed a bedtime story. And now she's gone, and you just show up out of nowhere. Daniel's face didn't change. I had my reasons, he replied calmly. Things you wouldn't understand. Sarah felt a chill. What did he mean by that? She stepped back, keeping a small distance between them. You should leave, she said quietly. This day isn't about you. Daniel looked at her for a moment, then gave a short nod. But just before turning away, he leaned in slightly and whispered, sometimes what you think happened isn't what really happened. Then he walked off, disappearing into the crowd of mourners. Sarah stood frozen. His words kept echoing in her ears. What did he mean by that? Was he talking about the accident? The thought made her stomach twist. She rushed back inside the church, needing air, needing space to think. She sat in a pew and closed her eyes. Memories of Lily flashed through her mind. Her giggle, her soft hands, her questions about the world. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. But mixed in with her grief was something new. Doubt. Suddenly, small things that didn't make sense began to stand out. The nanny had said Lily ran into the street chasing a ball. But Lily never played with balls. She liked stuffed animals and dolls. Why would she be chasing a ball? Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She opened the nanny's text from that day. It read, something terrible happened. Lily ran into the street. I'm so sorry. That was it. No details, no explanation. At the time, Sarah had been too heartbroken to question it. But now, her mother's instinct screamed that something was off. She needed answers. She needed to find out what really happened that day. And most importantly, she needed to know why Daniel had shown up out of nowhere and what secrets he might be hiding. The next morning, Sarah woke up with a sharp sense of purpose. The grief in her heart hadn't gone away, but was now mixed with something stronger, determination. She couldn't sit and cry anymore, not until she knew the truth. There were too many signs, too many small details that didn't add up. Her daughter deserved more than just silence and sadness. She deserved justice, if that's what this was. Sarah decided to start with the nanny. Her name was Carla, a young woman in her mid-20s who had been working for Sarah for almost a year. She had always been polite, calm, and patient with Lily. Sarah had trusted her completely. But now, even that trust felt shaky. Sarah called Carla and asked her to meet at the local cafe. When Carla arrived, her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She looked heartbroken. I still can't believe she's gone, Carla said as she sat down. Sarah nodded, trying to stay composed. I need to ask you some things, she said quietly. I didn't want to push before, but now I need answers. Carla looked nervous, but nodded. Okay, I understand. Sarah took a deep breath. You said she ran into the street chasing a ball. But Lily didn't usually play with balls. She liked her stuffed toys. Are you sure that's what happened? Carla looked down, her hands trembling slightly. That's what I told the police, she said. But her voice broke. There's something I didn't say. Sarah leaned in, her heart beating faster. Tell me, she urged. Carla swallowed hard. A man came by that day. I didn't know who he was. He said he was Lily's father. He said he just wanted to see her from a distance. He begged me not to tell you. Sarah's body went rigid. What? Why didn't you call me? Carla shook her head. I was confused. He seemed calm. He said he wouldn't come close. So I let him watch from the sidewalk while Lily played. But then something changed. Lily saw him and ran to the gate. She was calling out to him. And then she slipped past me. It happened so fast. She ran into the street. Sarah's head spun. And the car that hit her? Carla nodded. It was already coming down the road. The driver didn't have time to stop. Tears filled Carla's eyes. I should have grabbed her. I should have told you. But I was scared. I thought you'd blame me. Sarah felt like the ground had shifted under her feet. Daniel had been there. He had seen Lily, and Lily had recognized him. And because of that, she had run into danger. You have to tell the police? Sarah said, her voice firm now. You have to tell them everything. Carla nodded, sobbing. I will. I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean for this to happen. After the meeting, Sarah went straight to the police station. She spoke to the officer handling Lily's case and told him everything Carla had just revealed. The officer took notes and promised to look into Daniel's background. Sarah left the station feeling both lighter and heavier. Lighter because at least now there was a clearer picture. He hadn't just shown up at the funeral by accident. He had been there before, watching, hiding, and possibly causing the tragedy without meaning to. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She sat by Lily's window, staring out at the stars. Her thoughts were tangled. She had loved Lily more than anything in the world. And now, because of one man's sudden return, her daughter was gone. She kept thinking about Daniel's strange smile at the funeral, the way he whispered that things weren't as they seemed. He hadn't even shown guilt. It was like he was waiting for something, like he had a plan. And then a terrible thought crossed Sarah's mind. What if it wasn't an accident at all? What if Daniel wanted Lily to get hurt, or worse? The trial began 3 months later. The courtroom was packed with people, friends, family, reporters, and strangers who had heard about the heartbreaking case. Sarah sat silently in the front row every single day, clutching Emily's stuffed bunny in her lap. She refused to look at Marcus. She couldn't bear to see his face again. The last time she had looked at him was at the funeral, when he stood smirking by her daughter's coffin like nothing had happened. That image still haunted her every night. She could hear Emily's laughter in her mind, see her tiny hands holding the bunny, and feel her soft hugs. But those memories were now stained by the cold truth of how her little girl's life had ended. Marcus's lawyers tried everything they could to make him look innocent. They said there was no video proof, no fingerprints on the bottle, and no witness who saw him give anything to Emily. They claimed Sarah's memories of his behavior were emotional and not evidence. But the prosecution was strong. They showed the email Marcus had sent months before. They brought in a toxicology expert who confirmed that the sedative found in the hidden bottle could have caused death in a small child. Then came the most painful part of all, the re-examination of Emily's body. A second autopsy had been ordered after the investigation reopened, and the results were different. This time, they found faint traces of the same sedative in her blood. It hadn't been tested for before, because no one thought to look for something like that in a toddler's death. But now it was clear. Emily had not died in her sleep naturally. She had been given something that stopped her tiny heart. When the judge heard the new findings, the courtroom went still. Sarah closed her eyes, tears falling down her cheeks. She had known the truth in her heart for weeks, but hearing it said out loud made the pain feel even sharper. The judge ordered Marcus to stand. Everyone held their breath. Then the sentence came. Life in prison. No chance of parole. Marcus showed no emotion. He stood there like a stone, unmoved, as if he still didn't understand what he had done. Sarah stared straight ahead, not at him, but at the judge. Then she slowly walked out of the courtroom, never looking back. Outside, the sun was shining. It felt wrong. The world kept moving like nothing had happened, like her daughter hadn't been taken from her. But Sarah knew she had to keep going. She had to live, even if it hurt. She visited Emily's grave every day for the first month after the trial. She brought fresh flowers and sat beside the small white stone with her daughter's name carved into it. Sometimes she talked out loud to Emily, telling her stories, sharing her day, or just crying softly. One day, as she sat there holding the bunny, a little girl walked by with her mother. The girl looked at Sarah and smiled, then waved shyly. That simple moment made Sarah realize something. Emily's spirit was still in the world, not in a ghostly way, but in the love she left behind, in the way Sarah had become stronger, in the way strangers showed kindness, and in the way children still laughed and played. Months passed, and Sarah started a small foundation in Emily's name. It focused on helping single parents, especially mothers who had left difficult relationships. She wanted to help others see the warning signs she had missed. She gave talks, shared her story, and helped fund emergency support for families in need. Every time she stood in front of a group, she held a little stuffed bunny, warm but loved, as a symbol of what she had lost and what she still had to give. People listened. They cried. They hugged her after. And little by little, Sarah felt Emily's light returning to the world through her. She never forgot the pain. Some days were still unbearable, but she knew now that facing the truth had been the first step toward healing. That smile on Marcus's face at the funeral had shaken her to the core, but it also woke her up. It helped her fight for justice. And most of all, it helped her protect Emily's memory, making sure no one ever forgot the little girl who smiled so brightly and loved so deeply. Emily was gone, but her story would never be silenced.